Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. It's Connor, I'm Jack, and this is the Footy 5 with the promotion edition of the three teams coming up into the Premier League in this 2019-2020 season, being Villa, Norwich City, and Sheffield United FC as the three sides who are coming in as the newbies this season on the main.
All familiar with the Premier League at some point.
All of them have a lot of
couple
history.
years.
Exactly, yeah. Sheffield United, last time in there was 2007. Villa, 2016 was the last time they were there. It's been a little while for Norwich. They've been a bit of a yo-yo team, up and down. And the question now for them is, how are their summer strategies going to translate into actual results this season?
Or will they?
And will they, exactly.
Points on the board.
Exactly. We saw last summer there were two big teams that made a lot of money. And Villa are doing a similar thing, and we're seeing how all these strategies pan off in different ways.
So we'll take a quick look at what Fulham did last year and what Wolves did last year heading into the transfer window. Wolves had a very established side. They had been relegated in 2012, came back up in last year, and that was after they had established a very strong championship side with a lot of Premier League level talent, like Ruben Neves, Romain Saiz, Connor Cody. A lot of these players had a lot of good history, and they played very, very well. Mm-hmm. And that was alongside academy prospects like Matt Doherty and some of these other guys that had been there for a long, long time. Fulham, on the other hand, had Ryan Sessegnon. Yeah. They had a number of good players, but a very, very different approach. They spent £95 million in the window versus $80 million for Wolves. Yeah. So, again, the folks that Wolves brought in, Rui Patricio as a keeper at the back, very, very, a lot of pedigree. A couple more.
Jean Moutinho was a great one in the midfield.
Portuguese players
from Monaco. Really They dominated in the championship the year before, which is a big difference between these sides. They already saw that Nuno Espirito Santo could manage, who is the manager of Wolves.
They had a plan, and they stuck to it.
They had a plan, and they had confidence in the man that they backed. I think that's one thing that all three of the teams being promoted this year have in common is they all are very confident in their managers. They're not more skeptical about them like Fulham are, because you saw that they went through three in just one season.
With Claudio Ranieri, not even giving him more than 3 months.
Exactly.
Didn't have any results. They just couldn't score at all.
Mm-hmm. They struggled in many facets, and ultimately, results don't lie, and they finished far, far below any expectations that they may have had, and that meant that they finished 19th versus 7th.
26 points.
Yeah, 26 points. One of the best immediate seasons by a newly promoted team in many years for Wolves, and so it's hard to compare Fulham, a failure, to Wolves, but at the same time, both of them spent big, and one of them translated, one of them did not, which shows you that money doesn't always buy success. Against some arguments that some may make.
And Wolves built a strong spine. They scored 47, conceded only 46 versus Fulham scoring 34, giving up 81 goals.
Exactly.
That's a high for the last 3 years out of all those clubs. Worst, only other one close was Fulham, with Hull a couple years ago, giving up 80.
It was a poor season by every regard for Fulham, and they are the recipe that teams being promoted this year want to avoid. And we saw the sporting directors for Sheffield United, Norwich, and Villa all kind of mention you can do it two ways. You can do it the Wolves way, or you can do it the Fulham way if you're going to spend a lot of money. But Villa are the only team out of the three who really spent considerable amounts of money.
And Cardiff didn't spend a lot, and they were even worse in terms of their ability to score.
And they got brought even back down. Villa, though.
So Villa, again, this is a club rich in history in the Premier League. They got a European title, 7-time English champion, 7-time FA Cup, 1 UEFA Super Cup, number of league cups. Just a club with a long history. Foreign ownership, but they're going to be very good coming back up. But they've spent a ton of money.
They don't believe that they're doing a Fulham. I mean, you can't really say that, we're afraid of the same thing. But what I find interesting is where the teams are spending their money. Teams who have scarce amount of funds and they don't really have the financial capabilities to fund it versus Aston Villa, who have billionaire owners who are willing to inject a lot of money into this club. They were able to spend money on Tyrone Mings and another guy, Matt Targett. He spent £35 million combined on them for guys who combined have 46 Premier League appearances. It's tough to say that those guys are immediately going to translate, but at the same time, they feel very ambitious in what they're trying to do, and I think that you have to at least respect them for that.
Top signing Wesley, going to score? Is he going to? I mean, we don't know what these guys are going to do. He's not from
an English club. From Club Bruges, over in Belgium. And they're going to hope that he's going to replace Tammy Abraham, who was on loan from Chelsea last year, was a very key part of that squad for them. But they're going to he's going back to Chelsea after his loan ended. So it means that they're going to need to find a replacement for him. And the guys for that are going to be Trezeguet, a guy they signed for £9 million, and Wesley for £22 million, a club record signing. And Tyrone Mings is a guy who people criticize the signing because he was not one of the first choice Bournemouth center backs, who are a mid-table Premier League side, probably at best. And you spent a lot of money on one of their center backs when he's not even the best. So there were some question marks about the decisions where they were signing, but they believed a lot in them. And they already have Jack Grealish, a very established, talented player who's been sought after by clubs like Tottenham.
He may not stick. I don't know if he's going to be able to stay.
I think he's going to be able to stay for this year, which is going to be vital for them.
Because he's going to play. He goes to Spurs. He may not play.
Exactly, yeah. So I think that for them, it's going to be a case of, can the manager bring everyone together under this one team and be a cohesive unit? I think that they have a chance, and especially compared to the lack of spending from Norwich and Sheffield United, I think you'd say they're the favorite out of the three teams to stay up.
Well, it's interesting, their assistant manager there, John Terry, 22 years at Chelsea, knows how to defend in the Premier League, right? So that he's absolutely got to have an impact on that back line. It is young, to your point, it is inexperienced, but he finished out his playing career with a loan spell at Villa before becoming assistant manager there, helping them to gain promotion. I think it's going to be a big impact on that back line and help them to mature pretty quickly.
Yeah, I agree. And, I mean, this is another signing that they could potentially have is Tom Heaton from Burnley for £8 million. That'd be a good signing. He's been a good player for them, and he would just fill a need. Simple as that. £8 million, good experience.
Exactly.
And
organize that back.
He's against the grain because the signings made by Villa, they strike me as the kinds of signings that maybe a more established Premier League side would make, where you can afford to take more risks versus you're taking risks on players who may be vital in if you're going to be able to stay up or not. It's more risks to take where they're confident in them, and at the very least you can say they are confident. That's a good thing to see.
Next up is Norwich. They were relegated also alongside Villa in 2016. They're the title holders in the championship. They won it going away. Their head coach is from the reserve team of Dortmund, wanted to play that pacey, possession-based offense. Very good. Their leading scorer is a Finnish player, Timo Pukki, scored, I think, 30 goals in all competitions last year. Can he repeat that? Don't know.
I think one thing that's very interesting is newly promoted sides lack the talent, the experience, and the ability of teams who were there last year. It's simple as that. So a lot of times they go into the next season and they want to play a more defensive style, something that's more limit your mistakes that you can make, because the more high pressing you are, the higher your line is, the more risks you can make. So what you did see from them last year is they averaged 3.26 goals per game, which was more than any other promoted side in the last 10 years.
That's an insane amount of goals.
It is a lot of goals. And the question is, they were the second best defensive side as well in the championship. So they weren't porous at the back by any means. But the question is, you're now facing tried and tested Premier League sides every week. Can you withstand it every week with this high-pressure offensive style you want to play? They wanted to keep the nucleus together, and they did do that. And their sporting director, Stuart Webber, cited the 2014-15 Bournemouth team, where they kept a lot of their nucleus together. They kept the main guys who got them promoted on the side, and they ended up doing well, and Bournemouth have been in the Premier League ever since.
£3.7 million in money that they've spent thus far, and $2.7 million of that is a loan fee to Schalke for Farman.
Yeah, Ralph Farman, he's a very experienced German goalkeeper. He's good, experienced, competition for that number one goalkeeper spot. A good signing for them. But
Byram, injury-prone from the Hammers.
And Joseph Durmich was a free signing. He was been injury-prone for several years out of Germany. And we've seen that Fark has signed multiple players from Germany trying to go back to where his roots are, obviously in Dortmund. And they play a very difficult opening couple games. In their first 4 games, Liverpool away, one of the toughest games you can ever play against at Anfield. Chelsea at home, Manchester City at home in your first 4 games. Welcome to the Premier League.
And they've only been out of the league for 3 years, so they've been to these places, but not necessarily with this squad. And those are all cauldrons. It's going to be tough for them to come in and play there. It's not going to be a walk in the park, to say the least.
Definitely.
Sheffield United, another club with a lot of pedigree, 1 English title, 4 FA Cups. Their head coach, Wilder, you've got a great story about him. This is his boyhood club.
Yeah.
He managed in a couple other places.
3 years that he came in. He was the manager for them when they were in League One, the 3rd division of the English structure.
English pyramid.
And in 3 years, got promoted once, stayed a season, and got promoted yet again after finishing 2nd last year. I mean, what more could you want, honestly, from them? And he's just the exact kind of thing that you would want from a manager. And I think that overall, as a club, they have some of the keys there. They've kind of gone to the middle ground. You saw Villa spend a ton of money with their billionaire owners.
$115 million.
You saw Norwich spend not much money to keep their nucleus together, and Sheffield United are falling somewhere in the middle. Filling some needs that they have. They signed Phil Jalkioka on a free.
It's an interesting signing.
He's coming back to where he started, actually. And I think that he's experienced, he knows the Premier League, and that's kind of vital in that locker room to be able to have
He's had
guys
a lot of big moments in the Premier League.
who fills your squad with confidence and makes you feel stronger with him there at the back for them. And they're signing some other couple players.
Ravel Morrison's interesting. That guy was
all over the
talk of
place.
the town for a long time, but
But
never really materialized.
He's never materialized. People are saying this is his last chance to make it in the Premier League, and if he flops at this one, as he has at multiple other clubs, his career might be over. So you look at that, he's another risk that you see. Norwich, they took 2 risks with 2 very injury-prone players, and they're going to hope for more production from them. Ravel Morrison, he's a free, so it's like, really, what are you going to lose if he doesn't perform well, but versus what can you gain because of the lofty expectations that once were on his shoulders. But looking at them, an interesting story is Oliver Norwood. It was a key player for them last season. On Who Scored, he was their second highest performing player with an average match rating out of any players promoted at about 7.43, if I'm not mistaken. Interesting enough, 2 years ago he got promoted with Brighton. After that, he got loaned out to Fulham, back into the Championship, but he helped them get promoted. And then back at his home club, Brighton got loaned out yet again, this time to Sheffield United.
Got them promoted.
Got promoted and got signed permanently back in the December transfer window. And we just saw that he's had a pedigree of getting promoted, always been the bridesmaid, never the bride.
Yeah, has never been
but
able to
now he has
stick.
a chance to finally play in the Premier League. And he was a great player for them last season. And especially with all that experience at the lower level, at a high level.
Pressure. I mean, those are pressure-filled seasons to try to win promotion. 3 consecutive years.
Exactly.
3 consecutive
And Chris
managers.
Wilder is a really well-regarded manager. I think that he is, of the 3, I think probably the most well-believed in. I know Villa have the most talent, most resources, but at the same time, last year, if you, at the beginning of the season, you were asked who have the most talent, it was a bit of a coin flip, but you could have said Fulham had more talent than Wolves, and at the end of the day,
Absolutely.
if you can't put them on
Culture.
the field,
We've talked about it a lot. If you can't organize that team with a philosophy that everybody's going to buy into,
yeah. This is, I think, a unique situation where you would not be surprised if any of these 3 teams went back down. Last year, I think it was pretty consensus that Fulham and Wolves will stay up. They spent a lot of money. They're talented. They should stay up. This year, though, these 3 teams all have fragilities that could be exposed, and ultimately that is more of a theme of the massive TV money in the Premier League is just increasing the gulf. You're seeing Leicester get taken away, Bournemouth, West Ham, all these teams that have all this money are getting risen up into 2 different tiers, and as that top tier begins to grow, the ability for a smaller team to get back up in there it becomes harder to do.
if only Kyle Walker was at the end of his career.
It would be good for them right now, wouldn't it?
Saying, I would love to finish my career, maybe not love, I want to finish my career at Sheffield United. Interesting statement for a player in the prime of his career to be saying, but hey, they could surely use him now, but not going to happen.
Exactly.
Anyhow. So that's this edition of the promoted version of Transfer Stupid. Give us a subscribe, give us a like. Appreciate it. For Jack, this is Conrad, and this has been the 45. We appreciate it. Take care.